"Mommy, come quick," shouted a small voice, echoing through the bustling Westwood Mall. Hannah Parker's head snapped up from the display of handmade scarves she was arranging, her heart leaping into her throat. She had been guiding her son, Ethan, through the maze of shoppers just moments ago, making sure he stayed close, but now the sound of his panicked voice cut through every other noise around her. Logan Mitchell stood frozen a few steps away, his sharp eyes following the scene with a mixture of curiosity and disbelief as the small boy darted toward the toy section, clutching a half-spilled cup of chocolate milk. The afternoon sunlight streamed through the glass ceiling, casting streaks of brightness across the polished tile floor, highlighting the chaos of families, rolling carts, and the faint scent of pretzels in the air. Hannah sprinted after Ethan, her worn sneakers squeaking slightly as she weaved through the crowd, her thoughts racing faster than her feet. She arrived just in time to see him holding tightly to the edge of a colorful play table, eyes wide, lips trembling, and a soft whimper escaping him. Hannah knelt beside him, brushing a strand of hair from his forehead, her voice steady yet filled with urgency. "It's okay, baby, Mommy's right here. I've got you." She could feel his small hands tremble as he clung to her, and in that instant, the weight of the past 7 years pressed down on her. Logan's pulse quickened as he observed from across the room, the familiarity of her gestures, the way her shoulders hunched protectively over the boy, the subtle crease in her brow that matched memories he had long buried. Something about the scene felt achingly familiar, stirring a memory he had tried hard to suppress. He adjusted the cuff of his tailored suit, the fine gray fabric catching the light, and took a hesitant step forward, yet remained rooted to the spot, torn between the instinct to intervene and the need to understand. Ethan turned toward the sound of footsteps and a man's deep voice, his little face lighting up in cautious recognition. "Who's that?" Hannah followed his gaze and froze, her chest tightening as their eyes met. Logan Mitchell. The CEO, whose name still carried weight in their small hometown gossip and corporate boardrooms alike, stood there, every bit the figure of power she remembered, yet now somehow less distant, more tangible, more human in the presence of her son. A lump formed in her throat as she took a deep breath, struggling to steady the tremor in her voice. "Ethan, it's okay. That's just someone passing by." But her words rang hollow even to her own ears. Logan stepped slightly closer, his expression unreadable yet intense, a mix of surprise, curiosity, and a hint of something softer that betrayed his usually composed demeanor. He noticed the tiny curl of Ethan's fingers clutching a crumpled comic book, the quick glance at Hannah for reassurance, and something inside him tightened as if the years of absence, the unexplained distance, and the unanswered questions had all condensed into this single, fleeting moment. "He's with you?" Logan asked softly, almost more to himself than to Hannah, his voice carrying over the din of the mall yet gentle enough not to startle the child. Hannah's lips parted in surprise, her heartbeat hammering against her ribcage, and she simply nodded, unable to find words immediately. Logan's eyes softened, a flicker of realization crossing his features as he watched Ethan point toward a colorful display and shout with unrestrained excitement, "Mommy, look at this." The sound struck Logan in a way he hadn't anticipated, a blend of familiarity, warmth, and something unspoken that pulled at the very edges of his control. He took a measured step closer, careful not to intrude, as he felt the tug of years and emotions he had long ignored. Hannah felt her chest tighten, a mix of fear, relief, and anticipation swirling together, as she knelt there, adjusting Ethan's jacket and smoothing the rumpled hair at the back of his neck. Time seemed to stretch, the clamor of the mall fading into the background, leaving only the three of them suspended in a fragile, unspoken moment. Logan's thoughts raced, memories of laughter, of hurried goodbyes, of promises left unspoken, converging with the reality in front of him. Ethan tugged gently at Hannah's sleeve, pointing toward the miniature train set with wide, expectant eyes, and Hannah smiled, a small, tender curve of her lips that belied the exhaustion of the week, her fingers brushing the back of Ethan's hand. Logan swallowed hard, the weight of 7 years of absence settling on his shoulders, and he realized that in the simple act of a child calling out for her mother, in the quiet gravity of their bond, a puzzle he hadn't known existed was suddenly complete. The mall around them buzzed on obliviously, people walking past, conversations blending into an indistinct hum, yet for Logan, for Hannah, for Ethan, the world had condensed into this one heartbeat, one moment of recognition, one glimpse of family reunited in the simplest of gestures. Hannah took a deep breath, smoothing the hem of her coat as she held Ethan's hand tightly, the mall's fluorescent lights reflecting off the polished floors in scattered patterns around them. Logan followed a few steps behind, careful to maintain a respectful distance yet unable to ignore the pull of curiosity and concern knotting in his chest. The small boy bounced lightly on his toes, eyes wide as he tugged at his mother toward the miniature train set display, the vibrant colors and whistling sounds drawing his attention like a magnet. Hannah knelt beside him again, her voice gentle yet firm as she guided him through the crowd. "Ethan, remember what we talked about. Stay close to Mommy, okay?" The words seemed almost automatic, practiced over countless daily routines, yet they carried an underlying tremor of worry that Hannah could not hide. Logan's gaze lingered on the pair, taking in the fluid movements, the unspoken connection, the subtle expressions that betrayed years of shared intimacy now distilled into a single moment of family life. He recalled fragments of the past, the laughter they had shared, the hurried goodbyes, the unresolved arguments that had led to this long separation, and the realization struck him that the boy before him was a living reminder of time that had passed too quickly, opportunities that had been missed, and a bond that still existed beneath the layers of absence and distance. Ethan's small hand slipped momentarily from Hannah's, and he darted forward to touch the edge of a spinning train engine, eyes alight with delight. Hannah caught him just in time, lifting him slightly, her arms encircling him protectively, while Logan's sharp intake of breath betrayed the sudden, overwhelming sense of connection he felt, a mixture of longing, shock, and a quiet ache for what might have been. "Careful, baby," she murmured, smoothing the back of his hair, "we do not want you to get hurt." Logan's jaw tightened imperceptibly as he watched, noting the ease and natural authority with which she guided the child, the way Ethan's eyes never left her face for more than a second, seeking reassurance, seeking comfort, seeking home. The bustling crowd around them seemed to blur into insignificance, the chattering voices, the rolling carts, the distant echo of a children's choir over the mall speakers fading into the background as the three of them occupied an invisible bubble of shared focus. Logan stepped just a pace closer, careful not to startle them, his attention shifting from the child to the mother, tracing the lines of her face, the set of her shoulders, the quiet strength in her posture that had remained despite the years of absence. Hannah's heart pounded as she felt a subtle shift in the air, the awareness of being observed, the almost imperceptible warmth of a presence that was both familiar and unsettling. She glanced up, eyes meeting Logan's with a flash of recognition mingled with uncertainty, and for a brief second, words caught in her throat. Ethan tugged again, pointing toward a nearby carousel, his small voice breaking the tension. "Mommy, can we go see it?" Hannah smiled softly, kneeling to adjust his coat and straighten his hat, and Logan could not tear his eyes away, the reality of the past and the present colliding with each heartbeat, leaving him both grounded and disoriented, aware that the next steps taken in these few seconds could alter the trajectory of a life long separated but never forgotten. Hannah led Ethan toward the carousel, the boys' laughter echoing like tiny bells against the mall's high ceilings, a sound that tugged at Logan's chest in ways he had not anticipated. He followed at a cautious distance, eyes darting between the child and the mother, noting the subtle interactions that spoke of a rhythm he had long forgotten, the way Ethan's small fingers clung to Hannah's coat as if drawing strength from her presence, the gentle yet firm tone she used to redirect his energy and focus. Hannah knelt again to adjust Ethan's scarf, tucking the end beneath his coat to keep him warm, and Logan felt a pang of realization that in all the years apart, he had missed the countless small moments that defined parenthood, moments that now unfolded in front of him in vivid detail. Ethan's eyes sparkled as he climbed onto the first horse, the painted wood gleaming under the bright mall lights, and Hannah held his hand, steadying him with a tender smile that conveyed both reassurance and quiet pride. Logan's attention lingered, absorbing the nuances of her gestures, the slight crease in her forehead that hinted at exhaustion, the careful way she mirrored Ethan's movements to ensure safety, and the deep warmth that radiated from her despite the casual clothing and the hurried pace. As Ethan spun around on the carousel, laughing and calling out playful instructions to his mother, Logan felt a knot in his chest loosen slightly, the tension of the past years easing just enough to allow a sliver of hope to seep in. He watched Hannah's lips move softly as she whispered guidance and encouragement, her voice low yet filled with conviction, and he caught the briefest flicker of acknowledgement in Ethan's gaze toward Logan, a silent measurement of this new presence in his world. Hannah sensed the intensity of observation and glanced over her shoulder, her eyes meeting Logan's for a fleeting second. Recognition and wariness mingled with unspoken questions that hovered between them. Logan nodded subtly, a quiet signal that he meant no harm, only that he wished to understand, and Hannah returned to Ethan, her attention fully on the boy, adjusting his mittens and brushing a stray lock of hair from his forehead as if shielding him from the world itself. The carousel slowed to a gentle stop, and Ethan jumped off with renewed energy, tugging Hannah toward a small snack stand, the scent of caramel and popcorn filling the air around them. Logan stepped closer, careful to respect the invisible boundary yet drawn by an irresistible pull, noting the ease with which Hannah guided Ethan, the way she anticipated his needs before he even spoke, and the quiet strength that belied the years of struggle he had not witnessed. Hannah ordered a small cup of chocolate milk for Ethan, her voice calm but patient, and Logan felt a pang of admiration mixed with a touch of regret for lost time, recognizing in her every action the dedication and resilience he had never fully appreciated. Ethan took the cup eagerly, holding it with both hands as he sipped, and Hannah crouched beside him, brushing the tiny chocolate stain from his lip with gentle fingers, her smile soft and tender, carrying the weight of love and care built over 7 years of absence. Logan's gaze softened, the distance between observation and engagement shrinking as he realized that this simple scene of mother and child contained more meaning than 1,000 boardroom meetings, and he felt the pull of a decision forming quietly within him, a need to step forward not as an intruder but as someone who had once been absent, someone who could now choose to be present. Hannah stood, lifting Ethan's hand to guide him once more through the maze of shoppers, and Logan took a slow, deliberate step, each movement measured, the unspoken understanding growing that the next moments could redefine the boundaries of the past and open a door to a future that neither had dared to imagine until this exact intersection of time, place, and heart. Hannah guided Ethan toward a quiet corner of the mall, where a small seating area offered a temporary respite from the bustling crowd. The boy settled onto a bench, clutching his chocolate milk tightly, eyes bright with curiosity and excitement, while Hannah crouched beside him, smoothing his hair and checking that his jacket was zipped properly. Logan remained a few steps back, observing the interaction, the intensity in his gaze betraying a mixture of fascination and hesitation. Every gesture Hannah made, every tender word she spoke to Ethan, resonated with a depth of care that Logan had not fully comprehended until this moment. He remembered fragments of the past, the rushed conversations, the hurried goodbyes, and the many missed opportunities that had accumulated over 7 years, and the realization hit him sharply that the child before him represented not only the passage of time but the choices left unresolved. Ethan leaned toward his mother, pointing toward a display of plush toys, and Hannah followed his gesture, her voice gentle yet instructive as she guided him through the maze of options, discussing which toy would be appropriate for his age and which colors he might enjoy. Logan noted the ease with which she communicated, the calm authority in her tone, and the warmth in her expressions, all combined to create an aura of reassurance that had anchored Ethan even in the midst of a crowded, noisy environment. He could not help but notice the small habits, the way she tilted her head slightly when listening, the way her fingers brushed lightly over Ethan's hand, and he felt a pang of longing, a sharp reminder of what had been lost and what might still be possible. As Hannah selected a small toy train for Ethan, the boy's face lit up, and he hugged it tightly to his chest, spinning around to show his mother with delight. Hannah laughed softly, the sound carrying a mixture of relief and joy, and in that moment, Logan realized that the simplicity of these shared moments, the small triumphs and everyday gestures, held more significance than any boardroom achievement or professional success he had ever known. He stepped a fraction closer, careful not to intrude yet drawn irresistibly to the scene unfolding before him, and for a fleeting instant, their eyes met, a silent exchange of recognition, unspoken questions, and tentative understanding passing between them. Hannah returned her attention to Ethan, straightening his scarf and adjusting the sleeves of his coat, yet she could feel the weight of observation, the presence of someone who mattered, pressing softly against the edges of her consciousness. Logan's chest tightened as he considered the implications of the moment, the possibilities of rebuilding a connection, and the responsibility that came with acknowledging the years that had passed and the lives that had grown in parallel yet separate. Ethan clutched the toy train in one hand and reached out with the other toward his mother, his small fingers entwined in hers, and Hannah smiled, the gesture of his trust and love resonating deeply. Logan inhaled slowly, grounding himself, knowing that the next steps required patience, care, and sensitivity, understanding that any sudden movement or hasty action could disrupt the fragile balance of this rediscovered family connection. The soft hum of the mall, the distant laughter of children, and the ambient music provided a backdrop for this delicate moment of recognition, a pause in the rush of life that allowed all three of them to exist fully in the present, absorbing the weight of unspoken emotions, the relief of reunion, and the tentative hope of rebuilding bonds that had been stretched across years yet never entirely broken. Logan finally closed the small distance between them, his footsteps deliberate yet careful, making no sudden movements that might startle Ethan or disrupt the fragile balance of the moment. Hannah glanced up, her breath catching slightly at the sight of him so close, her body tensing instinctively, yet she did not retreat, her protective instinct for her son intertwined with a long-buried familiarity that refused to be ignored. Ethan looked between the two adults, sensing the weight of the unspoken connection, and reached out for Hannah's hand, holding it as if anchoring himself to both safety and love. Logan spoke softly, his voice measured and gentle, "Ethan, you are a very lucky boy to have such a strong and loving mother." The words were simple, yet laden with meaning, carrying the unspoken acknowledgement of years lost and the recognition of care that had persisted in Hannah's unwavering dedication. Hannah's eyes softened, a small, almost imperceptible nod acknowledging his words, and she adjusted Ethan's jacket, brushing a loose strand of hair from his forehead while maintaining her attention on the child, her voice calm yet steady. "Thank you, Logan. That means a lot." Ethan shifted slightly, his gaze curious and alert, as he observed the two adults, sensing the history that lingered between them. Logan's eyes followed Hannah's movements, noting the grace in her gestures, the care she took in every action, and the subtle ways she maintained order amidst the chaos of a busy mall environment. He felt a pang of longing and recognition, the past flooding back in fragments, the laughter, the small arguments, the hurried goodbyes, and the years of absence that had separated them, now converging into a single, potent moment of clarity. Hannah guided Ethan toward a nearby bench, helping him settle comfortably, and Logan remained close, observing as she encouraged the boy to take a sip of his chocolate milk, the sound of the liquid sloshing softly against the cup filling the brief silence between them. He noticed the warmth in her expression, the softness in her voice, the careful attentiveness that spoke volumes about her character and her unwavering commitment to her child. Ethan's eyes sparkled as he held the cup, glancing between his mother and Logan, sensing the tension and curiosity, and Hannah responded with a gentle reassurance, her fingers brushing lightly over his hand. "It is all right, sweetheart. You are safe here." Logan inhaled slowly, grounding himself, the responsibility of this moment settling heavily on his shoulders, the awareness that he was a witness to the quiet resilience and tender strength of a mother who had navigated years of challenge and separation. He took another careful step closer, keeping his voice low, deliberate, and filled with respect. "Hannah, if you would allow, I would like to understand, to know more about him, and about you, if you are willing to share." Hannah paused, her gaze meeting his for a heartbeat, measuring the sincerity in his tone, and then she nodded subtly, a quiet acknowledgement that some doors could be opened, some bridges could be rebuilt, and some pasts could be reconciled with patience and care. Ethan leaned slightly toward Logan, a small smile flickering across his face, and Hannah smiled in return, the weight of years pressing down yet tempered by a cautious optimism, the three of them suspended in a delicate equilibrium of trust, recognition, and a fragile hope that this encounter could mark the beginning of a new chapter in their intertwined lives. Logan and Hannah began walking through the quieter sections of the mall, Ethan skipping lightly ahead, his small footsteps echoing softly on the polished tile floor. Hannah kept a steady hand on his shoulder, guiding him with a calm and reassuring presence, her voice soft as she asked him about his day at school and the friends he had made. Logan followed closely, observing the fluidity of her interactions, the natural warmth in her expressions, and the quiet authority that came from years of parenthood, realizing that every small gesture carried significance and care. As they approached a seating area near a large indoor fountain, Ethan turned to Hannah with a question about the shimmering water, and she crouched down to meet his gaze, answering patiently and encouraging his curiosity while ensuring his safety. Logan noticed the small details, the way her fingers lingered briefly on Ethan's shoulder, the subtle tilt of her head as she listened attentively, and he felt a growing awareness of the depth of connection that existed between mother and child, a bond that time and absence had not diminished. Hannah led Ethan to a bench and helped him settle comfortably, smoothing the fabric of his jacket and checking his shoes, while Logan remained a few feet away, taking in the entirety of the scene with a careful attentiveness, the hum of the mall fading into a soft background as he focused on the small family unit before him. Ethan held his toy train tightly, turning toward Logan for a brief moment with a tentative smile, and Logan offered a gentle nod, a silent acknowledgement of his presence and respect for the boundaries Hannah had established, his eyes conveying understanding and a willingness to be present without overwhelming them. Hannah continued speaking with Ethan, her voice steady and filled with warmth as she recounted a humorous incident from earlier in the week, causing the boy to giggle and lean slightly into her, and Logan felt a surge of admiration for her ability to maintain composure and positivity, balancing the responsibilities of single parenthood with grace. As Ethan sipped from his cup of chocolate milk, Hannah's eyes met Logan's briefly, a subtle question in the glance, as if seeking reassurance that this man standing nearby would not disrupt the careful equilibrium they had established, and Logan responded with a small, steady smile, an unspoken promise of patience and respect. They spent several moments like this, the three of them sharing a quiet rhythm amidst the ambient noise, and Logan could feel the tension of the past years slowly easing as he observed the trust and comfort Hannah and Ethan shared. Hannah's gaze softened as she straightened Ethan's jacket one last time, her hand brushing his hair back gently, and Logan stepped just a pace closer, careful to remain unobtrusive, the awareness of the moment pressing on him as he considered the fragile possibilities of reconciliation, understanding that the decisions he made in these next few minutes could shape the course of their future interactions. Ethan's eyes sparkled with excitement as he pointed toward a small play area nearby, and Hannah nodded, standing to lift him into her arms for a brief moment before setting him down on the soft flooring, all the while speaking in a gentle, guiding tone that balanced encouragement with safety. Logan watched intently, noting the effortless way Hannah managed the boy's energy, the clarity of her communication, and the warmth of her presence, and he felt an internal pull to engage carefully, to acknowledge the family dynamic he had missed for so long, and to consider the careful steps he would need to take to bridge the distance created over 7 years of separation. Logan slowed his pace as Hannah guided Ethan toward a small cafe tucked into a quieter corner of the mall, the soft hum of conversation and the rich scent of freshly brewed coffee mingling with the distant sounds of children laughing and carts rolling over tile. Ethan climbed onto a high chair beside a small table, his eyes bright with anticipation, and Hannah settled beside him, smoothing his hair and adjusting the straps of his backpack. Logan observed from a respectful distance, noting the subtle gestures of care, the way Hannah's fingers brushed lightly over Ethan's hands as she helped him unwrap a snack, and the calm authority in her voice that balanced tenderness with structure. The boy chattered excitedly about his morning, the playground, and a class project he had completed, while Hannah encouraged his storytelling, asking questions that drew out details and laughter, creating a rhythm that was both comforting and illuminating. Logan could not help but feel a mixture of awe and regret as he watched, the years of separation suddenly pressing against him, highlighting the moments he had missed and the depth of Hannah's devotion that had persisted regardless of his absence. As Ethan leaned forward to show his mother a small drawing he had made, Hannah took it gently, her eyes lighting up with genuine admiration, and Logan's attention was drawn to the way her smile softened, the warmth in her expression, and the patience she displayed with every word and movement. The boy's small fingers clutched the crayon and notebook, glancing occasionally toward Logan with a tentative curiosity, sensing the presence of someone who felt familiar yet distant, and Hannah responded with a reassuring nod, keeping her voice calm and steady. "That is wonderful, Ethan. You did a fantastic job." Logan felt an unexpected pull, a desire to step forward and acknowledge the boy's effort, but he held back, knowing that any sudden intrusion could disrupt the delicate balance that Hannah had maintained. He took a slow step closer, his gaze fixed on the interplay between mother and child, and noticed the effortless way Hannah managed the small chaos around them, the way she anticipated Ethan's needs, and the subtle ways she communicated guidance without breaking the flow of their conversation. Ethan's laughter rang out as he recounted a small incident from earlier, and Hannah responded with gentle teasing, her voice melodic and warm, drawing the boy's attention fully to her as she laughed along, and Logan felt the stirrings of a quiet realization that these moments, simple as they seemed, were the foundation of the bond between them. He stepped a fraction closer, careful not to overstep, and met Hannah's eyes briefly, a flicker of acknowledgement passing between them, unspoken and tentative, yet laden with meaning. Hannah returned her focus to Ethan, guiding him through the last bite of his snack and helping him tidy up, her hands moving with practiced care, and Logan noted the small gestures, the unspoken communication, the mutual trust that had formed over years of solitary parenting and quiet perseverance. The bustling mall continued around them, a blur of movement and sound, yet within the small cafe corner, the three of them occupied a bubble of shared attention, connection, and cautious hope, and Logan felt the weight of the past pressing against the present, the recognition of what had been lost and the tentative possibility of what could yet be rebuilt, a fragile and delicate understanding forming in the quiet between the laughter, the whispers, and the gentle guidance of a mother and her child. Hannah gathered Ethan's belongings, tucking the small backpack securely on his shoulders and brushing the stray strands of hair from his forehead as Logan observed quietly from a short distance, the mall's ambient noises fading into the background for him as his attention focused entirely on the subtle interactions before him. Ethan held the toy train tightly, glancing between his mother and Logan, curiosity and cautious recognition in his eyes, while Hannah's voice was gentle yet firm as she encouraged him to walk slowly toward the exit, maintaining a sense of order amidst the flurry of activity around them. Logan stepped carefully closer, mindful not to startle either of them, his gaze following Hannah's movements, noting the ease with which she balanced attentiveness and nurturing, the way she anticipated Ethan's needs before he even spoke, and the quiet authority that came from years of guiding and protecting him alone. Hannah opened the door to the outdoor walkway, the afternoon sunlight spilling across the polished concrete and reflecting off the nearby store windows, creating a warm, inviting glow that contrasted with the bustling interior they had just left behind. Ethan ran ahead a few steps, turning to Hannah with a wide smile and a small laugh that made her heart swell, and she called out softly, cautioning him to be careful, her voice carrying a calm warmth that reassured both child and observer alike. Logan noticed the flicker of relief that passed over Hannah's face as she watched Ethan navigate the space safely, and he felt a tug at his chest, an awareness of the years lost and the moments he had missed that he could not reclaim, replaced now by a cautious hope that some connection could be rebuilt. Ethan pointed toward a nearby fountain, his excitement palpable, and Hannah guided him gently, her hands steady on his shoulders, and Logan followed a careful step behind, the image of mother and child moving together grounding him, stirring memories and emotions long suppressed. The boys' laughter and chatter created a rhythm that Hannah responded to intuitively, answering questions, redirecting energy, and celebrating small victories with him, each moment revealing the depth of her patience, her love, and her unwavering dedication. Logan felt a mixture of admiration and longing as he took in the scene, the simplicity and purity of their interaction illuminating the contrasts of absence and presence, loss and discovery, and the possibilities that still lay ahead if trust could be rebuilt. Hannah paused to adjust Ethan's jacket, her hands brushing lightly over his back, and for a fleeting moment their eyes met, a silent exchange of acknowledgement and unspoken understanding passing between mother and child, and then between mother and Logan, the weight of years hovering in the space between words and gestures. Logan inhaled slowly, grounding himself in the moment, recognizing that the patience, care, and attention he showed now could shape the fragile dynamics of this newly discovered family bond. Ethan's small hand reached out toward his mother, fingers entwined with hers, and Hannah smiled, a quiet warmth in her expression, as she continued to guide him carefully, the three of them walking in measured steps, each movement building the foundation for trust, connection, and the tentative hope of a future that might bridge the 7 years of separation and create new memories together. As they reached the wide-open plaza at the center of the mall, sunlight spilling through the glass roof above, Hannah guided Ethan toward a low stone bench where they could rest, his small footsteps hurried yet cautious as he clutched his toy train tightly. She knelt beside him, adjusting the collar of his jacket and smoothing his hair, and he leaned into her warmth, the trust and comfort between them palpable. Logan followed a few steps behind, his gaze steady on the two of them, absorbing each motion, each glance, and each subtle interaction that spoke volumes about their bond. The boy turned to Hannah with a bright smile, his blue eyes sparkling, and she returned it with a gentle warmth, encouraging his confidence and curiosity as she listened attentively to his chatter about the miniature train and the other sights they had passed along the way. Logan noticed the delicate care in her gestures, the patience in her voice, the subtle way she ensured Ethan felt safe and seen amidst the surrounding crowd, and he felt a pang of admiration mixed with the ache of lost years. As Ethan pointed toward a decorative fountain, his excitement infectious, Hannah lifted him slightly to observe the gentle arc of water cascading into the basin, explaining in soft, animated tones how the fountain worked and encouraging him to notice the reflections and patterns. Logan stepped closer, careful to remain unobtrusive, yet drawn in by the natural rhythm and intimacy of their interactions, realizing that these moments, seemingly ordinary, carried extraordinary weight and meaning. Hannah adjusted Ethan's gloves and reminded him to be careful, her voice calm but filled with underlying energy that held both discipline and affection, and the boy nodded, absorbing her words and responding with small nods and bright smiles. Logan's attention drifted to the expressions on both their faces, the tiny flickers of recognition, reassurance, and delight that passed silently between them, and he felt the deep pull of emotion, an awareness of both the years lost and the potential to rebuild connection. Hannah gathered Ethan's hands and guided him gently toward a shaded seating area, allowing him a moment to rest and enjoy the small treat she had bought him, and he settled onto the bench with a sigh of contentment, looking up at her with evident trust and love. Logan took a measured step closer, letting his presence be felt without imposing, and watched as Hannah engaged Ethan in quiet conversation, asking questions, responding to his observations, and encouraging him with laughter and gentle praise, the three of them existing in a delicate bubble amidst the surrounding movement of the mall. The sunlight shifted across the plaza, casting warm highlights on the polished stone, and Logan felt a subtle shift within himself, the weight of years of absence beginning to ease, replaced by a tentative hope and recognition of what could be rebuilt. Hannah's hand rested lightly on Ethan's shoulder, her eyes meeting Logan's briefly, an unspoken acknowledgement passing between them, carrying the weight of past choices and the fragile promise of reconciliation. Ethan leaned slightly toward Hannah, his small hand entwined with hers, and she smiled, brushing a lock of hair from his forehead, while Logan took another careful step forward, feeling the quiet power of presence, observation, and care in shaping the possibilities of their shared future, understanding that patience, attentiveness, and respect could open a path toward connection, trust, and the slow rebuilding of a family that had been apart for far too long.